Term for when someone falsely accuses you of doing to them what they are actually doing to you. Update, February 8, 2018, pot calling the kettle black, PCKB reconsideration and another example. The Wikipedia article on PCKB indicates something interesting. It says that originally the term was Spanish c. 17th century and most often used to indicate hypocrisy because in those days both the pot and the kettle were made of a black cast iron, which is why I did not accept it from those who suggested it as an answer. However, the plot thickens. I don't know if I never researched Wikipedia, if I missed the part I'm about to quote, or if it was added after I originally posted this, but essentially Wikipedia goes on to say that PCKB has since the 1800s come to mean what I'm talking about, emphasis mine. An alternative modern interpretation, 6-7, far removed from the original intention, argues that while the pot is sooty, being placed on a fire, the kettle is shiny, being placed on coals only. Hence, when the pot accuses the kettle of being black, it is the pot's own sooty reflection that it sees. The pot accuses the kettle of a fault that only the pot has rather than one that they share. Have two possible meanings simultaneously is very tricky to deal with, because if you say PCKB to someone, some will think it is the meaning of hypocrisy, and others will think it is projection. However, both cases fail to convey the deliberate and devious manipulation that I'm talking about. Another example of this scenario is the all too common occurrence of a female, usually a wife or girlfriend, calling the cops on the man in the relationship for abuse, after she was the one and only that was doing any abusing. Therefore, for the most part I'm abandoning my search for a term to describe this, because all the answers I received were great but none of them hit the target. This leads me believe that maybe no such word exists. Thus I shall have to coin one myself. Update, November 23, 2017, Thanksgiving in the USA. I learned of another example just recently that may help sum this concept up in an easily understandable way. You are minding your own business, then somebody punches you and yells, "He hit me." Original. Is there a term for when someone falsely accuses you of doing to them what they are in actuality doing to you? When I was a child, my younger brother would punch me and then would tell my mom I punched him, which was in no way true. I know some would call this lying, but I'm looking for a more specific term. I suspect there may be something to do with logical, rhetoric, politics, or debate, but I'm not cognizant of the term if it exists. Perhaps something like the term ad hominem? Any help is appreciated.
Isn't this a type of a projection in the psychological sense? This URL. Projection. When a person has uncomfortable thoughts or feelings, they may project these onto other people, assigning the thoughts or feelings that they need to repress to a convenient alternative target. Neurotic projection is perceiving others as operating in ways one unconsciously finds objectionable in yourself.
One relevant term is hypocrisy, the practice of engaging in the same behavior or activity for which one criticizes another. This URL, it does miss, though, the point where you're innocent. Someone can justly indict another for vice and still be a hypocrite. Another related term is gaslighting, from a 1938 play, which means to manipulate someone psychologically such that they question their own sanity. This URL, that might be too specific, but trying to rewrite fact that thoroughly often involves gaslighting. The term ad hominem, though, is a fallacy of logic, whereby you attack an argument or factual claim by appealing to a characteristic or belief of the person making the argument or claim, rather than by addressing the substance of the argument or producing evidence against the claim. This URL.
This is a form of projection. Oftentimes people, generally the more unhealthy ones, will project their own shortcomings and missteps on others as a form of defense. More accurately though, the act of doing this is generally considered gaslighting. It is literally the adult equivalent of the "I know you are but what am I?" it can become quite frustrating and demoralizing to the victim. Oftentimes people who are considered narcissistic personality, sociopaths, and borderline personality will employ this tactic.
Check this idiom, the pot calling the kettle black. From Wikipedia, the phrase "the pot calling the kettle black" is an idiom used to claim that a person is guilty of the very thing of which they accuse another.
I understand exactly what you mean, and your frustration in not having a proper answer. Someone that knowingly and deliberately puts you on the defensive, and on your heels by accusing you for something that they are guilty of, thus the guilty person is taking the focus off of themselves. A deliberate manipulation. I'm not sure if gaslighting is specific enough to describe this ruthless tactic. Pot calling the kettle black is more hypocrisy, often unknowing that they are being a hypocrite, and more importantly does not cover that the accusation is deliberate and meant to mislead. The same goes for projection, which is unconscious and not deliberate, conscious strategy. I would bet there is a specific word for this in German.